Okay, the truth will be exposed today. Okay, let's take a look at this image right here. The image that you are seeing is actually Cesare Borgia. He was born in Rome during the year of 1476 of September. He died on March the 12th during the year of 1507. The image of Yeshua Christ has been manipulated throughout history. But the truth be told, that the Caucasian pictures that you see today, such as your Caucasian Christ, the European pictures of Christ, is actually Cesare Borgia. And we're going to bring this out today. We're going to expose this lie that has been going on throughout history. Cesare Borgia was the son of Pope Alexander VI. In fact, he was the Pope's most loved and legitimate son. And at one time, papacy members were allowed to marry. Pope Alexander VI was known for having multiple mistresses. And in 1476, he bore a son named Cesare Borgia. Cesare was Alexander's favorite son, and by the age of 15 had already became the Bishop of Pamplona. By his 18th birthday, he was a cardinal. Borgia also had an older brother named Giovanni, who was Captain General of the papacy military forces. Cesare envied his brother's position. He envied it so much that he had his own brother assassinated in order to obtain the office. And Cesare Borgia resigned his position as cardinal and became captain general of the papacy military. And during this time, the Catholic Church was waging war on Islam, and Cesare was about to play a vital role in the history of the church. And at the time, the Muslims had successfully made their way to Germany and taken control of Turkey. This threatened the church's stronghold over the empire. And during that same period, the image of Christ was that of a Muslim, and the church was having a hard time selling its ideologies in the region. Some say they devised a plan to correct this issue and use Cesare Borgia as its tool. Consequently, some historians say that the Pope came up with a plan to have every painting of the original Messiah destroyed. Next, Alexander VI commissioned Leonardo Da Vinci to reinvent Christ in the image of his own beloved son, Cesare Borgia. Okay, let me give you a little more information on this guy. Between the year of 1502 and 1503, he employed Leonardo Da Vinci. Pretty sure y'all have heard of him. He employed Leonardo Da Vinci as a military architect and engineer. Leonardo Da Vinci and Cesare Borgia became intimate. They were lovers. They had passion for each other. So you can see that Cesare Borgia and Leonardo Da Vinci was kicking it together. They were sleeping together as well, and they was having sexual intercourse together. So this image of Cesare Borgia, who is documented to be a homosexual, not only a homosexual, but also a murderer, because he killed his older brother Giovanni to obtain papacy of the military forces. He killed him as well. So this would make him a homosexual. This will also make him a murderer because he assassinated his brother Giovanni to obtain Captain General of the papacy military forces. Not to mention that he committed incest with his own sister, among his father committed the same act against his own daughter. So the face of this man was painted by Leonardo Da Vinci, because you must remember he was also an artist. Now, you may heard about this thing called the Renaissance period, and Renaissance actually means rebirth. So during the Renaissance period, Rodrigo Borgia, which is Alexander the Sixth, the Pope of Rome, had Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo to compete in an art contest to see who can draw his most and beloved legitimate son the best. And Leonardo da Vinci won the art contest. So Leonardo da Vinci and Cesare Borgia, let's not forget that they were lovers. So to express his love for Cesare Borgia, Leonardo he painted many pictures of him to express his love for Cesare. And these are your so-called pictures today of Christ. These pictures will soon be put up in the Western world, the New World, which is the USA. So this is how this thing formulated. So there you have it. The modern image of Yeshua Christ is actually Cesare Borgia. And this lie have been perpetrated for years, that Christ was Caucasian, that he was European, when Christ actually came from the loins of Judah, which Judah came from Jacob. Christ was a black man. Christ was not Caucasian. So this is how you get this image in the Western world today. It was by Alexander the Sixth who did this trickery and treachery by putting his most beloved son up as Christ, as a disguise of Christ. I'm going to explain why the Bible we read today, such as the King James, has 66 books. I'm going to explain. Let's not forget that the first Bible to come into the New World was the King James 1611 edition. I want to say 19 or 20 years later, the King James Version came. So, the first Bible to ever arrive in America in modern day English was the King James 1611. Now, this book has a total of 80 something books, because it also has the 14 books inside of it, which is called the Apocrypha, the lost books. So the King James 1611 edition has all the 66 books plus the 14 books, which is the Apocrypha. But the King James Version that came 19 to 20 years later after the 1611 edition only has 66 books. So let's break this down. What happened to the total of 14 books? Let me tell you the truth. Because the Roman Catholic Church removed 14 books from the King James 1611 edition during the year of 1928. They took out 14 books from the King James 1611, leaving us with only a total of 66 books in the King James. So why would you have to remove books from the original edition? Well, let me tell you the truth about this. Okay, let's see why these books were taken out the original King James 1611 edition. If you would notice, out of the 14 books of the Apocrypha. One book is called The Wisdom of Solomon, and Solomon wrote this book. It is called The Wisdom of Solomon, which are one of the 14 books that they took out, and it mentions about Cesare Borgia hundreds of years before they even thought about, well, I want to say probably thousands of years before they even thought about doing this. The Wisdom of Solomon, which is in your Apocrypha, talked about what the Roman Catholic Church would do. And this can be found in the Wisdom of Solomon in the Apocrypha, chapter 14, beginning with the 15th verse. And you might want to read from the 15th verse and stop on the 21st verse. I'm going to only read verses 14 and 15 and verse 20 out of chapter 14 of the Wisdom of Solomon, so that you can see clearly why this was done. Verse 14. For by the vainglory of men they enter into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. Verse 15. For a father afflicted with untimely mourning, when he had made an image of his child, soon taken away, now honored him as a god, which was then a dead man, and delivered to those that were under him ceremonies and sacrifices. Verse 20. And so the multitude, allured by the grace of the work, took him now for a god, which a little before was but honored as a man. Now, let me break down this. In verse 15, when you see that it says, for a father afflicted with untimely mourning, that is Rodrigo Borgia. Okay? It says, when he had made an image of his child, soon taken away, now honored him as a god, which was then a dead man. When it says that, the image of his child, that's in reference of his son, Cesare Borgia, put up to be Christ, which is how they honored him as a god, though he was a dead man in Rome. Because let's not forget that Cesare Borgia died in the year of 1507 on March 12th. So they used this false image of Cesare Borgia as Christ. They brought forth a false teaching and ceremony and sacrifices, all along with this image, to deceive the people to believe these things, to deceive the Western world into believing that Christ was Caucasian himself, when he really was a black man from the tribe of Judah. Shalom.